Today in the bunker, we're going to make some concrete walls for Zone Mortalis, or anywhere concrete walls might be needed. To build these, I'm going to use some XPS foam. I cut this out on a hot wire table because I was fortunate enough to actually get one. But you can cut these out with a knife. You just have to be very slow and try to make very precise cuts. The hot wire cutter is pretty awesome, I'm not going to lie. So we will take these, and what I use is just some tacky glue. And in the original Eric's Hobby Workshop build for these, he puts toothpicks or cocktail sticks pushed in after these are glued together. And that does make them extra bulletproof. I ran out of cocktail sticks, so we're just going to use the tacky glue. And I've noticed that as long as you have a stable place to set this and let it dry, they harden up pretty nicely. So we just take some tacky glue, and put the two pieces together, and then I just kind of smear it around in there to make a good bond, and press them together firmly. If you get a little excess, just wipe that off. And just get those firmly together. We'll let that set up for a minute. And one of the other tips that a friend of mine, Dale, suggested, you can make these a little oversized if you have a problem with the seams, and then just go back and neaten them up with the hot wire cutter. But if you're fairly precise in your cuts and do these in batches, that's one thing I've noticed is I get variation when I do them in different batches. Do them all at the same time, you'll get very, very consistent cuts. And then to attach the other pieces, it's good to dry fit these because with the variations you get in the cuts sometimes, some of these pieces fit better in one orientation as opposed to another. And I just put that together and just kind of eyeball that, center it. And I did these, this is 1-inch foam. I did these basically 2 inches wide or 4 inches for the double walls. And the height, I just made them match my Death Ray Designs pieces. I think in the original project that Eric did, he cut them to the height of the GW doors. These are just a hair taller than that, but I don't think they look bad. So this will mesh nicely with not only my Death Ray Design stuff, but also my actual factory NECROMUNDA terrain. Alright, so we'll get those put together and we'll get to texturing. One note I should add for extra firmness, once this sets up a little bit, set a bead of glue along those edges in there, and that will really make it bulletproof. That makes it not want to flex at all. To get more of a concrete texture and to make these match with the concrete floor pieces that I did, I'm going to use just a rolled up ball of tin foil, and we'll just press in, not as much as you would do say for a rock face, but just make it pitted and also hit anywhere there's a sharp edge. Put that ball on there a little bit and kind of break that up and give it kind of a chipped and worn appearance. That's optional. If you wanted your concrete to look newer, you could skip that step, but since this is for the Underhive or some secret zone bunker, we're going to go ahead and get it looking really worn. Alright, so just roll that on in various ways until you're happy with the texture. Once you've got that textured to your liking, and I didn't do the very bottom, but what we are going to do to make these more stable, add a little bit of weight, We're going to take a drywall screw and just put a few of those in here at the bottom just to add some weight. And it doesn't take much. It makes them very, very stable. And the nice thing about doing them into foam is you can kind of countersink them with no problem. So we put, generally I'll put one in an end block, one in a wall. This one having 2 end blocks, I'll put one there too. But it makes a big difference. These are a lot less prone to tip over if you do this. And just whatever kind of screws you got, just put them in there. These are 1.25" deck screws, but it's just what I had lying around from another project. Alright, so next we will get ready to prime. In typical hacksaw fashion, I attempted to skip several steps, so we're going to go back and correct that. Now is also the best time to go ahead and add things like cracks, and also any other details you want to have on here, like pipes or whatnot. So the cracks you can just take, you can draw them in with a hobby knife. Or you can take a pencil, kind of add those. And just do that wherever you think you might need one. You can make these in destroyed sections as well. You would just carve out that, and cracks would be good there. So just add those to taste. And let's stick on some piping and whatnot and kind of dress that up a little. I'm just going to use, in this case, I've got some paper straws. You could use plastic straws, you can use any kind of tubing or whatever. Just makes a good pipe. Bamboo skewers if you had those. Some combination of them. Sprue works really well for conduits. Just cut those to fit. All right, well, what we'll do is lay down some glue. Put those in place. And just for extra strength, put some glue under here. Maybe be a little neater than I'm being. But, you know, hey, it's the Underhive, so it doesn't have to be super neat. And just lay a bead in there and kind of smooth that out. That'll help strengthen that a great deal. For a little extra detail, I just took a piece of foam core and some card, punched out a couple of buttons with a 1/16 hole punch, and used some zip tie pieces to kind of do up the edges. Once that firms up, we'll put that in place, probably with some conduit made out of some sprue. If I could just get this sprue. We'll use some of that and attach that to the wall. Alright, so we'll let that dry, and then we'll get ready to prime this. Probably prime some other pieces because I do want to get this video done. So we'll let this one dry, we'll prime some other ones just to show you the technique, and then we'll revisit this later. So the first step in priming these, I'm just going to use the standard Mod Podge and black paint, and that'll also help to strengthen this foam and make it far more resistant to damage. So what we'll do, because this stuff picks up brush strokes so badly, so we'll take that, we'll apply some, we'll take a sponge and we'll just kind of stipple it. And that not only gets rid of the brush strokes, but it also starts to give you a really nice concrete texture. Alright, so we'll cover those up. I don't do the very bottom, although Recently I saw a video where someone did some terrain and they painted the bottom black. It looked pretty sharp, so that's always an option. But we're going to go ahead and prime this and get ready for the next step. Here's one that I already had primed. I primed these black and then I hit them with just some gray spray paint. You can brush paint these, no problem. Just the spray cans go a lot faster. So if I have the option to do it and it's nice out, I'll generally do that. But you could easily brush paint these, not a problem. So now we're just going to take some black wash and apply this to kind of darken up everything, and that'll bring out a lot of the little dings in the wall and whatnot, your cracks. That'll get down in there and really accentuate those. And you can also do like streaks of moisture. You could do put on some like dank green stuff. These are fairly basic. I may go in and dress them up a little more later, but I'm just trying to get a bunch of these done so I can set up a table. If you apply your wash very heavy at the top, it'll kind of run down and make those moisture streaks. So it's all just a matter of how damp you want your concrete to look. Full disclosure, this stuff, this wash that I'm using will dry a little bit glossy. We'll put some matte varnish on it. That'll take care of that, but it'll still, you could leave it and it'll give it kind of a wet look. So let's get those covered and then we'll get to dry brushing. Once that wash dries, and you'll notice it dried quite a bit lighter than it went on. It goes on very, very dark, depending on how you have your wash mixed, but it'll lighten up considerably. So then we're going to take just some white craft paint, and we will just dry brush this sort of to taste. At least hit all of the sharper edges, just to kind of bring those out. And it can't hurt to do a little bit on the face of it as well. That'll lighten that up again, depending on how light you want your concrete. And when you dry brush the faces with white, it may take a couple of hits on there, but it'll pick up that texture that we left from stippling and give it a very, very concrete appearance. It kind of sets it off from looking like rock per se. It's quite a bit when we got to do the top, but in any case, it's worth doing. Just take your time, and that'll really bring out that texture and make it look great. Once your dry brushing and everything is done, then you can take like a stencil, or you can freehand it. Just make some various markings and whatnot. This is also a great place to start putting graffiti, especially if you have like different gangs. They can start tagging their areas. You can sort of go nuts with it, or you can leave it plain. It just sort of to taste. A couple of things I would note is to, depending on what you're going to use these for, if you're going to use them on the tiles that come in the starter set, the Zone Mortalis tiles, then make sure with your doors and everything that you've got the correct spacing. I'm primarily going to use these on my own tiles, so they kind of fit well enough. I'm pretty sure these will work on the Zone Mortalis tiles as well, but just make sure of that before you make 28 of them and then figure out that they're the wrong size. The other thing is that count up how many you need. I'm just making a bunch because I've got all of this other stuff to mix it with, so I probably don't need 48 pieces, but who knows, maybe I'll make it because I'm that way. Alright guys, so there's my take on the Zone Mortalis walls. Fairly easy to build. These will work for a lot of things. Zone Mortalis, obviously. Kill team, regular 40K, bunkers in the zone. You could make all kinds of World War II bunkers and whatnot out of this. Just, you know, anything where there's concrete, you can probably adapt this to make it work. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Remember to hit like and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and have a fantastic day.